story that's still developing right now. A South African author is currently in quarantine in a hotel in Kenya as the Omicron variant continues to wreak havoc around the world. Now, the story that we are hearing is that she tested positive upon arrival, but it's the events that led up to her quarantine that have raised a lot of eyebrows. According to regulations in that country, any passengers testing positive will be required to take a PCR test and isolated awaiting results. Now, if the PCR is positive, passengers need to isolate for 10 days at a Government of Kenya approved isolation facility at their own cost, with a repeat PCR test on day 7. Now, the author of South African Big Hair book, Janine Jellars, joins us now on the line from a hotel room in Nairobi, where she has had to quarantine, and she's there to tell us her experience about what she's been going through with Kenyan officials. Janine, good to have you. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me, Leanne. Yes, it's been quite an experience. Definitely not how I envisaged my December Christmas vacation.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I was just going through, social media feeds, and your story came up, and I started reading it and listening to your account, and it actually gave me cold shivers. But let's fill viewers in on what's actually happened. I mean, you flew, obviously you took your PCR test in South Africa. It was negative.
Yes.
You then boarded a flight to Nairobi. So talk to us from there.
Yes, so funnily enough, I'd had 3 tests in last week, 2 of them for work and 1 of them for travel. I had 2 PCR tests, 1 rapid test. All came back negative. I boarded the flight to Nairobi. I travel quite frequently to Nairobi as my husband lives and works here. Boarded my flight to Nairobi. I was aware that upon arrival, there would be a rapid test for people arriving from South Africa. It had been instituted since the announcements around the Omicron variant. I was tested. I had the rapid test done. I was told I tested positive. Thereafter, the officials took my passport, or they took everyone who had tested positive's passports. And the understanding is they are keeping everyone's passports at immigration until you can deliver a negative test certificate, which is highly unusual to be handing over your travel documents in a foreign country.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't signed them over or anything. What is also strange was, even after people had tested positive as per the rapid test, we were not isolated from other travelers. We were not isolated from other people within the airport. So if these are measures to mitigate the spread of Omicron and we are suspected of having COVID, why are we then allowed to mix with other people within the airport, you know?
Yeah.
Just from a COVID protocol perspective, I found it incredibly strange. We were also given a list of 4 hotels to choose from for our quarantine. As I mentioned, my husband lives in Nairobi. We do have an apartment here with enough space to allow me to quarantine at home. I was told that there were no directives around at-home quarantine or isolation, and my only options were to choose from these 4 hotels. We weren't necessarily informed about the rates of these hotels. We were kind of told to immediately pick a hotel, even without researching, which hotel we'd like to stay at. The entire experience was just really bizarre.
Yeah.
I'm no medical professional, but, just following the media, I'm aware of COVID protocols, being isolated, social distance, interacting with people who are in the correct protective gear. Those things were not followed at all.
And besides that, just one thing that also that jumped out for me was that all of you and all of the, how many other passengers tested positive and were going through the same experience as you?
So on my flight, there were about 10 people maybe.
Okay. And all South Africans? Were they all coming from South Africa?
No, they were all coming from South Africa, but not all of them were South African.
Okay. So testing positive and then passports being taken away, and then basically thrown into the back of an ambulance, all of you together.
Yes, so we were told that four of us were going to be transported by ambulance to the hotel that we had chosen. The ambulance was no bigger than a small van, and we were told to get into this ambulance with our luggage, and I refused because we don't know who does or does not have COVID, because rapid tests aren't always the most accurate, and it was just a risk to put all of us and our luggage into this cramped space with no ventilation and travel across the city when we're not sure about who is infected or who isn't. The handling of that was very concerning to me. We were eventually supplied with another ambulance, so we were kind of more spread out, and then we were transported to these hotels. At the hotel where I was checked into, again, no protocols around PPE. I was cramped into a lift with a porter from the hotel, which, again, if I had suspected COVID, should not be happening. This is while this hotel had been allocated to me as a quarantine hotel. There are, in actual fact, other guests here. Matter of fact, there's a restaurant. It's fully operational downstairs. I had to speak to the hotel staff to tell them maybe it's not a good idea to hand me items, to hand me my food in my hand. Can you find a different mechanism by which you can deliver things to me, because we shouldn't be in such close contact, given that I suspected COVID.
So in other words, just basically you've been put into a hotel. There are no COVID protocols in place, but you are now paying to stay in this hotel. Your passport is gone. You still don't have your passport, correct? That's still been taken away and confiscated from you. You've had a PCR test. Have you got the results from the PCR test as yet?
So I was given another PCR test yesterday morning. Only after the test was administered was I told that the cost would be $60, which I was expected to pay that in cash. I do not travel with cash. I still have not paid for that test because of that. I was handed a printout and not emailed a test from the lab. The PCR test says that I have COVID, that I am COVID positive. However, there are irregularities on the test itself, as it claims that both a nasal and a throat swab were taken, and that's incorrect. Only a nasal swab was taken. The QR code on the test itself does not work. So even the printout of the test has given me pause, and I have many questions about that. I've requested that I get another private lab in to test me. And I'm unsure whether the Department of Health will accept those test results.
So you're basically being held as a prisoner in a hotel room in Nairobi. All of this because a rapid test has said that you are positive. You have no passport. You cannot leave, even if you wanted to leave. So you're stuck in this hotel room awaiting results to come through. This is not the first time that this has happened, because I did see on the comment section of your story that somebody else a few days before has gone through the exact same issue.
Yes.
Now, when you contacted, because I believe that you have been contacted by the Department of International Relations, Home Affairs, I'm not too sure who's contacted you, but what did they say about your passport being confiscated? Surely that is illegal.
So I have been in contact with the Department of International Relations. I was in contact with them on Sunday night upon my arrival. Obviously, I was very concerned about handing over my passport, because I do know that is illegal. That is not something that we should be doing as citizens of other countries. I'd spoken briefly to an official, and they had advised me that I should hand over my passport. So under their advice, I handed over my passport. I had a follow-up conversation with them yesterday about what had ensued with the PCR testing, and I haven't been in contact with them this morning yet. I will update them on what has happened to date. Again, this is just becoming a bit of an expensive nightmare on my end because you're correct. I am in this hotel. I am paying for this hotel and now having to pay for all these tests. I don't know how to check the veracity of the test that was provided to me yesterday, but I will ensure that I get my own private testing done as well.
Yes, so you know. I mean, what are you paying as a matter of interest per day to stay in this hotel?
The rate that I was shown was $75 a day. The food has not been great, so I've also had to pay for food to be delivered to the hotel. I mean, fortunately, as I said, my husband does live in the city, so I have his support. He's obviously not allowed to come see me, but he is in the city. He has been at the hotel to ensure I'm comfortable, and I have had things delivered to my room. But yes, not ideal, especially as I do have the option of at-home isolation.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the reality. So, I mean, you could be in for about a 20,000 rand process for something that you don't even know what you've done if you have to stay there all this time. 12,000 accommodation, every test you're taking is 1,000 rand plus, and this is the reality, unfortunately. But look, we're going to continue to follow the story, and I do hope that by speaking out about it, we warning a lot of other viewers that this is something that unfortunately is the reality. If you are traveling, this is what can happen to you. And did they test you as you arrived, or was it on the plane? Did you get off the plane and they tested you as you arrived there, and this was what happened?
Yes, so I don't know that many South African travelers are aware of these protocols that have been put into place. I'm aware of it. As I said, I'm a frequent traveler into Nairobi, so I was aware about the new protocols that have been put in place. But anyone traveling from South Africa who isn't, doing a layover, if you are staying on in Kenya, you are processed through a center, so everyone is jam-packed into one big room, and then, you are told to share your details with the officials. A test is administered. You wait the 10 minutes for the rapid test results to be made available, and then they inform you. So that even if you are just coming through the airport, you do have to factor in about a 1.5 hour to 2 hour added process. Yeah. And the worry is what happens thereafter if in fact that does, that test comes through. For some of us, an additional 10 days
That's
in
a big
the hotel.
Problem. At your own expense, and you don't know what's going on. Are you allowed to leave your room?
No.
Not even to walk around the parking lot?
That has not been outlined to me. Just as someone who is aware of COVID protocols, I'm not going to be leaving my room, given, the uncertainty around my status. Again, it's concerning that I had to outline this to the Department of Health official locally about my concerns about PPE, about interaction with staff members. The PCR test that was administered to me yesterday, the individual was not wearing PPE. They just had on their regular street clothes and was wearing a mask. I've had many COVID tests, and the person who administers it is always in head-to-toe PPE. So I found that very unusual that an official from the Kenyan Department of Health would be administering a test in their normal street clothes.
Gosh. Janine, what a story. We're going to keep following you and find out how this goes, and if there's any other way we can help you, because I do know that international relations do watch. They are aware of what's going on, but the assistance that you're needed, especially having had your passport taken away, I think it's a big issue there. Janine, good luck. Hang in there. We're following, we're watching. You're not alone, so we're just going to support you from a distance, but I hope that all works out okay, but we'll definitely stay in touch with you. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Leanne. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. So, Janine talking to us from her hotel room in Nairobi in Kenya, about her experience that she's encountered with Kenyan officials after a test revealed, a rapid test, that she was positive when she arrived at the airport. Her passport was taken, and she's now locked up in a hotel room and awaiting other results to come to see what the next step is.